Shall we start? I'll just share my screen. Perfect. So yes, this is, has everyone opened Rhino and Grasshopper? Only Rhino?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Ready, right everyone? I can start. Yes. So basically, see, once you open Rhino for the first time, you see an interface like this, right? Now, before we even start learning Rhino, there is this one question that we all need to answer, right? Why do we need something like Rhino to begin with? Right? What will answer that question? Why do we need something like Rhino? There are so many softwares that are available in the market, right? We have Revit, we have SketchUp, we have 3ds Max, and whatnot. Why Rhino specifically?
Yes, it's easier to model in Rhino as compared to Revit and SketchUp. Makes you do more fluid things.
Okay.
Maybe it enables us to design and model organic shapes or some irregular shapes.
So first of all, the first point that we have with us is that it's easy to model, right? What else? The second point that we have with us is it helps us to model organic shapes, right? What else?
More measurable, I think. You can extract accurate measurements.
Okay. So first one was that it's easy to model, right? Okay. The second point that we have with us is that it's more measurable. So whatever measurements that we are doing, it's more measurable. What was the third point? There was point two which I forgot. Easy to model, measurable, organic shapes. Yes, somebody said it's much easier for us to model organic shapes. Okay. What else? I want somebody else to also answer. Somebody who has used it before, right? Sanat, if you want to answer, or even for people like you are taking this workshop, right? There must be something behind your head, right? Why are you taking this workshop? What have you heard about it? Anyone?
It plugs into Grasshopper, which can be used for scripting.
Okay. It plugs with something called Grasshopper, right? Okay. What else? So if I had to give out a reason, see, all these are very valid reasons, right? But they are not 100% true. The reason this is not 100%, right? All of these are few aspects of this, but it's not the primary reason why you would want to use something like Rhino, right? It's easy to model. Yes, it's easy to model something in Rhino, but it's not as easy as SketchUp, right? SketchUp is easy to a very different extent, right? And the Rhino is nowhere close. It's measurable. Yes, you can have very accurate results. You can calculate very accurate things. You can have very accurate calculations of area and volume and all of these things. But it's not that you can again use Revit for very accurate calculations, right? And with Revit, you can do much more with those calculations. Organic shapes, right? Again, for organic shapes, I can use ZBrush is something, right? Which has a lot of sculpting tools, right? With Blender also, you can do something. Blender also allows you to create highly organic shapes, right? So that's not, again, Rhino is not very good with it. Again, Grasshopper, right? So Grasshopper, as we had discussed yesterday, it's a visual scripting platform, right? But then there are a lot of visual scripting platforms that you have, like with Blender, you have Shutterstock. With Revit, you have Dynamo, right? So all of these, again, visual scripting platforms are available. The reason primarily one would want to use Rhino is because it's a NURBS software, right? It's primarily a NURBS software. Now, just to give you a brief description as to what is NURBS software, what happens is there are two types of softwares usually. There is something called NURBS software, and then on the other side you have something which is known as a mesh software, right? Now, how does a NURBS software work? So NURBS software usually works with calculations underneath, right? So for example, let's say you want to create a circle, right? So in NURBS surface, how you'll define is you'll take up a point, and then it will calculate a radius that you are giving to it, and based on that radius and the center point, it will make a circle for you, right? So everything with NURBS is calculation based, right? Okay. Now that's not so much the case over here. So what happens in a mesh software, for example, again, if you want to create a circle, you have a center point, but then that particular circle is made up of multiple small line segments, right? And those line segments know nothing about the radius or something, right? Those line segments exist in an absolute, right, in the 3D world space. So what happens is typically people who might have used SketchUp, if you scale up something beyond a point, let's say you're converting something from millimeters to meters, you'll see especially circles or cylinders or something like that breaking. And then you just have to refresh or something like that, right? That usually happens because it's a mesh software. Revit is a mesh software. Now, because Rhino is operating on NURBS software, it becomes very easy to use Grasshopper on top of it, right? Because the software itself is working on calculations, right? Scripting deals with calculations, right? Hence, it becomes a little easy for both of these things to exist simultaneously, right? Now, so that is that. Now, usually I like to see both of these platforms as in like this is Illustrator. People who have used Illustrator, or it's basically a vector, right? It's not again the same thing, but just to create, that kind of analysis. And this is basically Photoshop. It works basically on pixels, right? So pixels are absolute, vectors are usually, you can scale it up or something like that. A disadvantage of working with NURBS software is it's very heavy, right? So if you see NURBS and mesh software is usually very light in nature. So again, when we'll proceed further in the workshop, we'll see that there are a lot of plugins, like let's say Ladybug, Kangaroo, right? All of these plugins in Grasshopper, when we want to use all of these plugins in Grasshopper, we'll have to convert NURBS surface or NURBS geometry into a mesh, right? Because mesh is an absolute thing, hence calculations on it become very easy, right? And then on NURBS, it's a little difficult. So that is why we would want to probably use Rhino. Now coming back to our interface, right? This is the interface that you'll be seeing for the first time, right? When you open Rhino. Now there will be first thing that I would like all of you to do is, especially people who are using Rhino for the first time, is there will be multiple bars over here. So what I would want to typically tell all of you is use just these three of them, right? Properties, layers, and display. Remove everything else. So if you want to remove something from here, just keep clicking on it and you can remove it outside, right? Again, if you want to place it back, just drag and place it over here, right? Something like this. So only three things that you need on top over here is properties, layers, and display, right? Nothing else. Just remove everything else. For now, it will be much easier for you to learn things, right? Okay. Now, everyone is done with this much? Good. Okay. Now, see, these are the four windows that are available to us, right? One is the top view, one is the perspective view, one is the front view, and one is the right view, right? Now let's start. If you want to go into a particular window, what you do is you typically double click over here. Once you double click over here, you'll go into that particular window. If you again double click over here, you'll move out of that window. Right, everyone's good with this? Just try it out and then we can proceed. Now again the same way, let's say we want to create a rectangle, right? Okay, so what you can do is you have this panel over here, right? This is your toolbar. Now this is the secondary menu that you have on the top over here. This your toolbar changes with the mode that you are in, right? So in standard mode, you are having all of these tools with you, right? If you go to C plane, you see these all are changing, right? And then if you set view, all of these are changing. So you have menu on top over here like this. If you don't want to use these icons in order to start a particular command, you can also use command panel over here, right on the top. Again, same as AutoCAD, it shows history on top, right, of the command panel, right? If you want, what you can do is you can even increase the size of history or something, but I usually keep it to one line itself. Right, everyone's good with this much? Okay, so let's say I want to create a rectangle. Now there are two ways of creating a rectangle. I can either go to icon over here, right? And then it has a drop down menu and there are multiple ways in which you can create a rectangle. Otherwise, what I'll do is I'll just type rectangle over here in the command line and I'll start the rectangle command. Now a good thing about Rhino, again same as AutoCAD, is it will prompt you as to what next action should you take, right? So as soon as I start a rectangle command, it's asking me to select the first corner of the rectangle, right? So okay, I'll select one point over here. Now it's asking me, see if you can read over here, other corner or length, right? So let's say I'm selecting other corner over here somewhere and I've created a rectangle. Everyone's good with this much? Right? Okay. Now, again, let's see other things, right? So there is something at the bottom over here which is known as grid snap. What grid snap, again, as the name suggests, what it does for you is it allows you to snap to a particular grid. So let's say if I turn my grid snap on and if I try to create a rectangle, you see it will always snap to the grid, right? So that is grid snap for you. I'll just turn it off for now. Again, ortho, as the name suggests, it allows you to start or turn off ortho mode, right? Then there is something called planar over here. What planar allows you to do is it will allow you to draw something in the given plane only, right? We'll see how we can set planes and everything, but once you set a plane, it will allow you to work in that particular plane only so that you don't draw anywhere in the 3D, right? So that's planar mode. OSnap again is a snapping option, right? So when you click on OSnap, it will turn on snapping for you. Now I usually like to set these options as on. So endpoints, I'll keep it on. Near, I'll keep it on. Points, I'll keep it on. Midpoint, I'll keep it on. Center, I'll keep it off, right? Because it usually affects, it just snaps to center and then it makes task tedious, right? So center, I'll keep it off. Intersection, perpendicular, I'll keep it on. Tangent off, and then quadrant again on, right? And then not, you can keep it off, and vertex you should keep it on. Everyone's good with this much? Okay. And then the final thing over here is gumball. So gumball and smart track also you should keep it on, right? We'll see where both of them are used later on, right? But for now, just keep smart track and gumball on. Everyone's good with this much? Okay. Now let's see how let's create our first object, right? I want to create a sphere. I want to create, let's say, a cylinder, right? So I'll just one thing. So what I'll do is first I'll create a circle, right? Now it's asking me ki circle ka center, what do you want to keep as the center of the circle, right? So either I can select a point over here or I can write 0, 0, 0 over here. So I'll just write 0 and press enter, and it will take 0 as my center. Right, two ways of doing it. Either you can select a given point in the workspace that you have, or you can just type 0 and press enter. And the next thing it is asking me is the radius, right? So I'll just write 50 and press enter. Again, all of these things are same as AutoCAD, right? So I'll just press 50 and press enter, and here I have a circle with me. Everyone's good with this much? Okay. Now, the next thing I want to do is I want to extrude this circle, right? Extrude means you pull up a line in order to create a surface, right? So what I will do over here is I'll select this circle, or there are again two ways of doing this. Let's say if I want to extrude something, I'll just type extrude over here in my command line. And there are various options that you have, right? Various extrude commands that you have. I want to extrude the curve, right? So I'll select a curve, right? A circle is a curve, right? So I'll select this extrude curve. Now it's asking me, see, select curve to extrude, right? So I'll select this particular curve. And then I can press enter or space bar. And then I am able to extrude this cylinder, right? In positive direction as well as negative direction. Right, I want to extrude it over here, and I'll click over here, and this has created a cylinder for me. Everyone's good till here? Okay. Now what you are seeing over here is known as a wireframe mode. Right, in wireframe mode, you only see curves. Right, if you click on drop down menu over here, there are various modes that are available in Rhino. Right, so what the first mode by default is wireframe mode. The wireframe mode is the quickest mode, right? It works when you have a lot of geometry, right, in Rhino, and it's very computationally light. Then you have something called shaded mode. So if you click on shaded mode, you will see your object like this, right? The other mode that you have over here is known as rendered mode, right? And then you have ghosted mode. So what ghosted mode allows you to do is, let's say you don't need to do it, I'll just do it very quickly because I just want to show you. The ghosted mode allows some level of transparency, right? So you are actually able to see something that's behind this cylinder, right? And then you have X-ray mode and technical mode and artistic mode and then Arctic mode and all of these modes, right? You can check out all of these as and when you have time, right? You can just play with it, right? And ray trace is basically the rendering mode, right? Again, Rhino, just first, you don't need to know all of these things, but Rhino uses cycles render, right? The new Rhino. And cycles render was developed by Blender. So when Rhino starts, you'll find a note somewhere that we thank Blender. So Blender is basically an open source software, and then they had developed rendering engine known as cycles render, and then Rhino is using the same thing, right? So, okay, let's get back to shaded mode, right? I would want to use shaded mode for now. Okay, now once your shaded mode is on, if you go to display bar over here on the right hand side, right? Okay, so in the right hand side, you have various options as to how you would want to see your object. Right. So the first thing is, do you want flat shading or not? So I'll check that mark on, right? So if you turn on your flat shading, you see something like this, right? I'll turn it off and then it will appear smooth. Right. Now you have vertex. So if you want to see your vertex, you turn it on or you can turn it off. Now if you want to see your shadows, right? So if I turn on this, I'll see shadows, right? But in shaded mode, I'll not see shadows. I'll see them if I place a plane and all of that over here, right? So if you want to turn on your shadows, you can turn it on from here. Then surface isocurves, right? So when you turn surface isocurves, so again, this cylinder is made up of 4 curves on this surface, right? So when you turn on surface isocurves, you'll see all of these curves over here. You can, if you want, you can turn them off over here. And then mesh wires, if you want to turn it on, you can turn it on and off from here, right? So various options that you have, right? Again, in shaded mode, if you want to have some level of transparency, let's say I want to have 20% transparency. If I click on 20 over here, it will give me some transparency. Right, I'll click over here and I'll turn it on like this. Everyone's good with this much? Sure. Can we proceed further? Okay. Now let's see let's create a few objects, right? So let's say I want to create, I'll delete this also, I'll delete this circle also. Now let's see, we have few objects over here, and let's try and create few objects very quickly, right? So here I have a cube. Now let's say I can create a cube simply by clicking on my canvas, right? Like this, and I'll turn on surface edges on. So if I turn on surface edges on, it will give me curves on all the edges, right? If I turn it off from here, it will not give me any edges. So for now, I'll just keep it on, right? Again, the wires that you see over here might be very thick in your case, right? If you want to edit that, what you can do is you can go over here, edit shaded settings, right? If you click over here, a panel will open like this, right? Once this panel opens, over here, there is something called edge thickness, and you can keep it as 1 pixel, right? By default, it's 2, if I'm not wrong. But I usually like to keep it thin, so I have kept it as 1. Right, so we have this cube over here. So we saw one method of creating a cube, right? So you click over here, and you quickly click over here, and you can create a cube, right? The other way of creating a cube is you can start this command over here. It's asking you to select a point. So let's say I'll select a first point as 0. Then I can give size. So let's say I want to create a cube of 50 cross 50 cross 50. So I can just type 50, press enter, 50, press enter, and 50, press enter. And this has created a cube of 50 cross 50 cross 50. Right? Everyone's good with this much? Yes or no? Sure?
Yes, yes.
Perfect. Okay. Now what you see on my screen over here, this blue, green, and red arrows are known as gumball. Right? Any software you take, by default, red color will indicate x-axis, green color will indicate y-axis, and blue axis will indicate z-axis. Right? So now if you, let's say if you want to move your cube, you can simply click on this arrow and move this cube. Seems good? If you want to move it in y direction, you click this and then you move it in y direction like this. If you want to move it in z, you click on top of this. You have to click on arrowhead and you can move it in z direction like this. Perfect. I'll just take it back to 0, 0, 0. Everyone has tried this? Working for you? Okay. Now let's say if you want to move it accurately, right? What you can do is you can, rather than pressing on this arrowhead, what you can do is just do single click over here, and then something like this will open up, and then you can simply type over here. Let's say you want to move it by 50 units. I'll press 50 and then press enter, and it will move by 50 units. Works? Okay. Let's say you want to move it in z direction by 100 units. I'll just type z and 100 over here, and then it will move it by 100 units in z direction. Working? Can we proceed further? Okay, so I'll just delete all of them, and then yes, you have various options over here. You can use, let's say you want to create a sphere. First, it's asking me for the center of the sphere, right? Again, I'll use 0 as the center of the sphere, and then it's asking me for the radius, right? By default, it asks you for diameter. So if you click over here, so over here it's asking me for the radius, right? So I'll press 20 over here, and then this is a circle. This is a sphere with radius 20. Now let's again, I want to create a sphere. I'll select the same option from here. I'll select this as my center. Now see, it's asking you for the radius, right? But you don't want to give a radius, you want to give diameter. So what you can do is there are multiple sub options that you have over here. You can select diameter over here, and then now you can give a diameter. So let's say I'm giving 50 as my diameter, and this is the sphere I have with 50 as a diameter. Works fine, everyone? Is it good? Okay. So now what I'm doing over here is I'll create a cube, right? I'll start with this much and then I'll create a cube of, let's say, 500 cross 500 cross 500, right? So I have a cube like this with me. I want all of you to create this cube of 500 cross 500 cross 500. Done? Now what I want to do over here is I want to create a sphere on this particular surface, right, on the top surface. So what I will do over here is I'll quickly create a line over here and I'll connect a line over here from here to here. Done? Diagonal line. And then what I will do over here is I'll take a sphere from here and I'll start a circle. I'll create a circle like this. I'll create a sphere like this, right? And because my size of my cube, I had taken it as 500, what I want is I want a sphere to be little less of a size, so I'll keep my radius as 200. Right, and I need to keep my radius as 200, so I'll keep my radius as 200. And I've created this sphere like this. Seems good? Right, because I had kept my snapping, midpoint snapping on from bottom, it automatically snaps to the midpoint. Right, now if I want, I can just delete this line, it doesn't matter to me. Right, if you want to keep it, it's fine. Everyone's done with this much? Okay. Now what I will do over here is I'll go to my ghosted mode over here. And if you see ghosted mode over here, if you turn on your ghosted mode, you'll see that there is half of this sphere is inside. Right? Perfect? Okay. Now what we'll do is I want to make 4 copies of this geometry. Right? So what I'll do is I'll select both of them. And then in command line, I can just write copy. Right, and press enter. And as soon as you type copy and press enter, it asks for a point from where you want to start copying, right? So let's say I am selecting this particular corner. I'll click on that corner and now I can move this over in any direction I want, right? But it will be in the same plane. If you press shift, it will move anything orthogonally, right? Everyone's good with this much? Okay, so I'm moving this orthogonally in my y direction, right? Or let's say I'll move it in x direction. Now, if you are moving something orthogonally, so what you can do is you can press shift and it will move orthogonally, right? And then what you can do is you can also press tab. So just press tab once and then leave shift. So if you press tab, what it will do is it will lock the direction for you. Right, so now my x-axis direction is locked and I can only move this geometry either in positive x-axis or negative x-axis. Let's say I again select this and I want to copy this and I'm going in this direction. If I just press tab, you see there is this white line that is appearing. That means it has locked the direction. Now I can only move it in just both of these directions. I can't move my geometry in any other direction. Seems good with everyone? So this particular function you'll use a lot in Rhino, right? Because it makes your task a lot easier. Again, I'll just select this cube and I'll make 4 copies of it, right? 1, 2, and 3. So I have 4 copies with me. Right? Again, if you don't want to copy, what you can also do is you can also array. Right, the same way you do it in CAD, right? So I'll just copy both of these things, and if I write array over here, there are various array options that you have, right? Do you want to use a simple array? Do you want to array something on the curve? You want to array something on surface? So for now, I'll just use a simple array, right? And then it asks you how many multiplications or how many copies of the same thing do you want in X direction? So let's say I want 5 copies of this in X direction. Then how many copies you want in Y direction? I don't want any copies in Y direction, so I'll keep 1. And in Z direction also, I'll keep it 1 and press enter. And then it asks you what is the distance between the two objects, right? So let's say I'll keep it as 1000 over here. And then once you press enter, and then you again, so it gives you this is something what it will look, right? And if it's good for you, you again press enter, and it has created 5 copies. Seems good? Everyone is following? Any issues till now? No, none, right? Okay. Now, what I will do is I'll create a circle like this. Now, again, I want to move this geometry. So what I will do is I'll just I'll create a curve over here, and then I'll select both of them. And then if I want to move something, what I will do is I'll select move command. I'll select the center point, right? So I want to move it from here. And then what I can do over here is I can place it on my curve like this. Seems good with everyone? Okay. Now let's say I want to array this geometry on this curve, right? So what I'll do is I'll just type array command over here, and there is something called array on curve. Right. If I select that particular thing, see the first thing it's asking me is select the objects you want to array. So what are the objects? I want both of them, right? So let's say if I select this first, in order to select second object, what you need to do is you need to press shift. If you press shift, what it will do is it will keep adding objects to your selection. Right. So I can press shift and then I can select this sphere over here. Let's say if you want to remove something from your selection, you press control. So control is minus, shift is plus. Everyone's good with this much? Right. So let's again, if I want to remove this cube from here, I'll just click control and then I can remove it from my selection. If I press shift, I can select it. Now, once I have done my selection, I can press enter. The second thing it's asking me is select the path of the curve. Right. So basically it's asking me to select a curve. So I'll select this particular curve. And then it's asking you how many number of items do you want along the curve, right? So let's say I want 6 items. So I'll just click over here, I'll put 6 over here. And then I don't want to rotate these objects, right? So then if you keep rotation on, what it will do is it will also rotate, right? So that everything will be oriented towards the center, right? Click OK, and then here are the 6 copies along the curve. Simple. Okay. Now I'll just move everything back. Here are the 4 objects that we have, and let's do some operation on this, right? So in Rhino, you have something called Boolean operations, right? What Boolean operations allow you to do is they allow you to add something to your geometry, remove something from your geometry, delete or something like that, right? Let's see a simple object. Let's see first Boolean operations, right? The first Boolean operation that we have is something known as Boolean difference. So what I will do over here is there is a command over here which is known as Boolean difference. Once I press enter over here, the first thing it's asking me is select a surface or a polysurface you want to subtract from, right? किसमें से subtraction करना है? So let's say I want to subtract it from this cube over here. I select that cube, right? As soon as I select this cube, right, and press enter, the second thing is asking me is what do you want to subtract it with? So I want to subtract it with this particular sphere, right? So I'll select this sphere and then again press enter. And you see it has done subtraction over here, something like this. Seems good? Everyone is able to follow? Okay.
Yes.
Perfect. The second operation that we have is known as Boolean addition. Right? What Boolean so again, if you type double over here, there is something called Boolean union. What Boolean union does is it adds something to your object. So once you use Boolean union over here, it's first asking again the same thing. Select the surfaces that you want, select the surfaces or objects you want to add, right? So I want to add both of them and create a uniform singular object. So if you select both of them and press enter, you see that sphere from inside has gone, right? The reason why it's gone is because now they are no longer two different objects, right? Here I have not performed any Boolean operation, so you can see half sphere inside. But over here, this now has become a single entity in itself. Seems good with everyone? Okay. Now, the third thing over here is something which is known as Boolean split. So Boolean split allows you to split your object. So if you use that particular command, again, select a surface or a polysurface you want to split, right? So, okay, I'll select this surface which I want to split and then select a cutting object. Right, so I'll select this as this sphere as my cutting object and I'll press enter. Now if you see over here, I have three objects with me. This is the first, this is the second entity, and this is the original sphere I had. So the thing that happened was the cube that I had was split with this sphere, and it was split in two parts, right, like this. Seems good? Yep. Okay. And the last thing, Boolean operation that we have is Boolean intersection. And as the name suggests, I think most of you will be able to guess it. What it does is it just gives you the intersection between two geometries. Right? Everyone is good with this much? Perfect. Okay. Now I'll delete all of them, right? I am no longer interested in all of these things. Now what I want to do is I want to create a surface on this front. Right? I want to create a surface over here. Now if the same method as I had done earlier, I'll create a line over here. And then now what I want to do is, just give me a second. I'll draw a line over here. But now I don't want to use a sphere, right? I want to use a cylinder, right? Because I want to create that particular exclusion. I want to remove something like that away. Now if I try to create a circle over here and so first I'll select my midpoint. And if I try to create a circle, it's creating circle in this fashion, right? I don't want a circle like this. I want it aligned to my surface, right? Are you understanding the problem that we are having? I want all of you to quickly try this. Has all of you tried? Have all of you tried? Okay. I don't want a circle in this particular fashion, right? Now, one of the things that I can do over here is I can use my gumball and I can turn it off, turn my circle like this, right? I can press shift and it will only rotate with 90 degrees. Right? This is one of the method. And then what I can do is I can again select this curve and I will extrude it. And I will extrude it like this. And then what I will do is I'll do Boolean difference over here. And I can then delete this curve. Seems good with everyone? What we did? Yes or no? Were you all able to do it? Okay. The other method is using C-planes. So what you see over here, this is nothing but, if you are able to see something over here, this is nothing but a C-plane, right? Because your C-plane is like this, whatever you draw, right, will be on that particular C-plane or it will be aligned to that C-plane, right? So whenever you try to draw something, this circle over here is aligned to this plane over here. Right. In order to draw something on this surface, what you need to do is you can go over here, C-plane option. Right. Once you go to C-plane option over here, there are multiple ways in which you can select a C-plane. or you can create a C-plane, right? So first thing that we'll use is we'll create a C-plane using 3 points, right? So if I select this option over here, which has 3 points over here, 1, 2, and 3, and if you hover your mouse over here, it will be, you'll get something like set 3 plane using 3 points. Right, I'll select this option over here. Now, as soon as I select that option over here, it's asking me to select origin of my C plane. So let's say I'll keep this as my origin. The next thing it's asking me is select X direction. Right, so I want my X direction in this direction. So I'll just snap it to this point. And then it's asking me to select the Y direction, right? So I'll set my Y direction like this point. Right? And then if you see, now see my C plane has changed its direction. Seems good with everyone? Right, all of you are clear? Right, I see what we are doing is I don't want to start with a very complex geometry and all of those things, right? For the sake of everyone to be on the same page, we are doing some very simple operations, right? But I want these concepts to get very, very clear, right? Now itself.
It's
Everyone's good?
great till now.
It's good, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
very good.
So again, throughout the workshop, if you think my speed is too less or too more, in either case, just let me know. Right? Okay. Now
Adnan, how do you reset it back?
Yes, I'll
The
come to
C.
that. I'll come to that. Give me 5 minutes. Okay. Now that it's set in this particular plane, I can now create a circle like this. Seems good? Right, I'll quickly, again, what I'll do is I'll set my C plane over here, and then on this surface, and then I'll create a circle over here. Right, this time I'll use this point for creating my circle. Good with everyone? Okay, I'll delete this. Now, again, coming back to Amod's question, right? How do I set it back? Right, there are multiple options that you have over here, right? So typically what I would like to do is set C plane to world top. If you do it, if you click this option, it will go to its original position over here, the world top it has. Right? If you don't want to use that, so let's say you have created a C plane in this particular direction, like this, what you can do is you can also undo from here. So if you undo, it will just go one step back. If you do world top, doesn't matter how many ever C plane you had created, it will just go to the original form back. Right, so now the second time I'll use undo and it will go back over here. Right, and you can place C plane anywhere you want, right? I can also place C plane over here, here, whatever. So let's say if I want to create a C plane, I can also create a C plane from here, here, and here, something like this. Right, anywhere you want basically. C planes allow you to deal with your geometry. C planes allow you to basically create curve in any direction you want. Everyone's good with this much? Can we proceed further? Right. Now let's say scale. How do we scale something, right? In Rhino. So as again the name suggests, what we can do is you can select any object and then you can write scale over here. Now if you just write scale over here, there will be 3 options that you have. Right? Scale 1D and scale 2D. Right? First, we'll use the simple scale option over here. Right? So I'll use the scale. The first thing it's asking me is select the base. Right? So from where do you want to scale something? Let's say I want to scale it from here. The second thing it's asking me is the factor. So let's say I want to scale this geometry by 2 times. So what I can simply do is press 2 and then press enter. Right? And it has scaled my geometry by twice. Seems good with everyone? Perfect. Okay. Now, let's say I don't want to use that. What I want to do is I want to scale. So I have this line over here and I want to scale this object as much as this line. Right. So then what I can do is if you start this scale command over here, I'll select this object that I want to scale, and then the first thing it's asking me is select the base. Then the other thing I can do over here is I can select this as my second point. And then I can snap it to this line over here. Seems good? Yep. Can I proceed further? Okay, great. So yes, this was the second option that we had. Sorry, this was the second option that we had, right? So the first one is scaling using a factor. The second one is using an aligned option like you have in AutoCAD, right? The third one is, let's say I want to scale it enough such that this line is 2000 millimeters. How will I do that? So again, what I'll do is I'll start the scale command over here. I'll select this as a base point. I'll select the second point, and then I'll just type 200. Sorry, 2000, and I'll press enter. Now this line is 2000. Right. So this is the third option. Everyone's good with this much? Now, if you want to measure something, you use a command which is known as distance. Right. So if I measure this point and if I measure this, click on this, you see I have 2000. So it's perfectly scaled. My cube has been perfectly scaled. Okay. Now this was a simple scale option, right? What we had. There is something other which is known as scale 1D. What scale 1D allows you to do is it allows you to scale something in one direction. Right. So if I press enter, now if I select this point over here, and then I can select the second point over here, I can scale this object in one direction. Right? I can also scale the same thing in Z direction if I want. Right? Now if you scale something from midpoint, it will scale in both the directions. So let's say if I, rather than starting from here, I'm selecting midpoint as my starting point. And then if I use that, it will scale in both the directions. Right? So it will follow symmetry. Seems good? Okay. So this is the scale 1D option that we have. Okay. The next option that we have with us is known as scale 2D. What scale 2D allows you to do is it allows you to first select the base, right? And then let's say I want to scale it with 2. So what it has done is it has scaled X and Y, but it has not scaled Z. So that is two-dimensional scaling, right? So the normal scale allows you to scale something uniformly in all the three directions. The 1D scale allows you to scale something in one direction, and the 2D scale allows you to scale something in two directions. Everyone's good with this much? Okay. Now, let's see how we can loft something, right? So what I'll do is I'll again come back to all the 4 panels over here. Right. Once I come back over here, this is my top view. Over here, if you go over here, there is an option over here which is known as, are all of you with me? Yes. In AutoCAD, this is known as spline, right? Over here in Rhino, we know this as NURBS curve or interpolate curve, right? So the first one is the NURBS curve. So if you click over here, you can create a curve like this. Everyone's good with this? I want all of you to see on my screen just for 1 minute, right? If you see, there is a gap over here, right? Between this point and this point. The reason is because I'm using a command which is known as NURBS curve, and the NURBS curve, what it does is it allows you to create a smooth curve between all the points. Right. The second option over here is known as interpolate curve, and what this does is it makes sure that the curve passes through the point. right? So you have two options over here. Again, a detailed use of both of these different types of curve we'll see in Grasshopper, right? But for now I just want you to know that okay, we have two types of curves, two types of splines that we can create. One is NURBS one, which doesn't necessarily pass through the points, and then the other one is the interpolate, which makes sure that it passes through the point. Everyone's good with this much? Okay. So what I want all of you to do right now is I want all of you to create two splines like this. Right? Anything you like, right? For now. So if you come back to your perspective view, you will see two curves over here. Now, something that all of you need to know over here is what happens is, let's say you have I'm drawing a plan view, right? This is infinite, this goes in infinite direction, and this goes in infinite direction, but basically this is your Rhino world, right? And you have created two curves over here like this, right? And then you are working somewhere over here and you have created something over here. Now what Rhino does is basically once you come from here to here, it places there is Rhino, in order to rotate the world, you see over here, it's rotating, right? But it's rotating around a certain axis, right? So what it does is it has placed this center of rotation over here. Now, if you go back from here to here, your rotations will not work well. So what you need to do is from time to time, you should just do zoom select. So if I click this curve and if I press Z or if I write zoom over here, it will give me zoom option. And then there are various sub options over here. And I can just click on selected or I can press S and again enter. And now it has zoom selected this object for me. Right, again in SketchUp you have zoom extends and zoom selected on all of these. It's the same thing, right? So zoom selected. Once you do zoom select, now you see the center of this object is used as rotation axis. So it makes your task a little easier. So from time to time you should just do zoom select for an object you are working on. Right, coming back to the task that we were doing, we have these two curves over here. Right, what I'll do is I'll just rotate them by 90 degrees using gumball. And then I'll move one of them in this direction over here like this. Everyone's good with this much? Yep. Shall I proceed? Now, in order to create a surface between both of these curves, there is an option in Rhino that we have which is known as loft. And once you just type loft in your command line and press enter, it will give you various options, right? So again, do you want to create a normal loft? Do you want to create a tight loft? Do you want to create a loose surface between both of these curves? For now, I'll keep it as normal. Right, and then there is this rebuild option here, right? So the more rebuild of, so again, if you want to simplify or don't simplify, for now I'll just keep it as default. We'll see all of these things again in great detail once we start with Grasshopper, right? But for now I'll keep it as default and I'll press OK, and it has created the surface for me.
Sorry,
Yes.
Adnan, I got a question. Every time you do a certain command, a dialog box appears in your Rhino, but it doesn't appear in mine.
Okay.
Is there any particular?
The thing is that you might be using dual screens, and the screen that you might have placed your Rhino on must be a secondary one.
No, actually, it's a first one.
Okay, so then it might be your dialog box might be going in the other screen. Can you just check behind? It must be hiding behind Zoom or something.
Okay. Yeah, let me check again. No.
It's not coming?
thing.
Okay.
Anyway, we can address it after the session, I guess.
Sure. It's working for others, right? Once you press on loft, there is a dialog box which pops up, right? Everyone good till here? Okay. Can we proceed further? Okay. So now, see, again, all of these options will be available over here as well, right? Whatever I'm teaching you. Now, the next thing that we have already done loft, the next thing I want all of you to know is something called, let's start with revolve, right? I'll go back to my front view over here. I'll click on this line segment over here, and what I'll do is I'll create, and I'll also turn my grid snapping on, and yes, I can create a free form like this, right? I'll create a simple free form like this, right? Everyone's good with this much? Yep, yes or no? Okay. Now I want to revolve this curve, right? So what I will do over here is I'll go to surface over here and I'll select this revolve option over here. And then the first thing it's asking me is select a curve to revolve, right? So I'll select this particular curve, right? And then press enter. The second thing it's asking me is select an axis that I want to revolve it along. So what I'll do is I'll select this point and I'll press shift, and then I'll select this as an axis, right? And then it's asking, so then it's asking me कि starting angle कौन सा रखना है. So I'll just keep 0 as my starting angle, and I'll keep 360 as my end angle, right? So it will create a full circle for me, and then I have a surface like this. Everyone's good with this much? Working? Right. The other thing, let's say if I I want to revolve this surface, so I want to create a surface which is formed by revolve. Let's select this curve, and this time what I'll do is I'll select this as an axis, right? And then I can again select this as starting angle, and then I can go through full 360-degree, and I can click over here and then press enter. And this time I have something like this. Seems good?
Mm,
So based on the axis you select, it allows you to revolve a particular object. Can we proceed? Yep. Okay. Now what I will do is I have this curve. Okay. Now what I will do over here is again I'll create a curve like this. Good. Okay. Now I want to use the command which is known as sweep rail. So for that, what I want to do is basically this is the rail, and I want to create. See, once I start creating a rectangle like this, you see again I'm facing the same issue, right? That my rectangle is in the same plane. What I want is I want this rectangle to be perpendicular to the curve. In order to do that, what I'll have to do is I'll have to orient my C plane somehow. Now, if you want to orient your C plane perpendicular to the curve, there is an option over here which is known as, if you go to C plane bar over here, there is an option over here which is known as set C plane perpendicular to the curve. Can you see, all of you, this option over here? Yes? Okay. Once you select this option and you select this curve, you see now this C plane is going perpendicular throughout the curve, right? So what I'll do is I'll select this first point over here, and this will create a perpendicular, a plane perpendicular to my curve at this particular point. Seems good with everyone? Okay. Then what I'll do is I'll select this particular way of creating a rectangle. right? Everyone's good with this? What this allows me to do is it allows me to create a rectangle starting from a center plane. And then I have my rectangle like this. Everyone is good with this much? Perfect. Okay, can we proceed? Okay. So now if I go to my surface options over here, I have some, I'll use sweep rail 1. And then first it's asking me to select my rail. So I'll select this rail over here. And then the second thing it's asking me is select the cross section of the curve, right? So something that you want to use as a cross section to sweep, right? So I'll select this particular curve and press enter. And then again the direction, right? Direction doesn't matter over here. So I'll just press space bar and then freeform, and then you can use default options right now and then press OK. And you see it has created a sweep rail like this. The sweep rail in Rhino is similar to follow me, right? If I'm not wrong, in SketchUp. Follow me works the same way. Right, again in Rhino, if you want to undo something, you use Control Z. If you want to redo something, you use Control Y. Right, same as Photoshop, any software. Right, Control Z, Control Y. Okay, shall we proceed further? Okay, great. So now what I will do over here is I will move this rectangle over here like this. Anyone is good with this? Then what I will do over here is I'll create another spline over here. So first what I'll have to do is I'll have to make this go again to the wall top, right? So I'll select this option over here and it has gone back to the wall top. And then what I can do over here is I can create a spline again like this, right? Something like this. Everyone's good with this? Now I can use something which is known as sweep rails 2, right? So first it's asking me to select the first rail, sorry, sweep rail 2. So I'll have to select the first rail, the second rail, and the cross section curve, right? And then press enter. And you see it has created object like this. So this is nothing but sweep rail 2. Everyone's good with this? I'll give you 1 minute to try it out and then, yep, we can proceed. Okay. Okay. So now what I want, what let's start with some simple exercise, right? What we want to do is we'll design a very simple table, right? We'll draw a very simple 3D for a table. So what I'll do over here is I have this, I'll select a point, and then if I want to create a rectangle of 3 feet cross 3 feet, what I'll do over here is 3 and then apostrophe, which will create a 3 feet table, and then again 3 and something like this. I have a rectangle which is of size 3 feet cross 3 feet. Everyone's good with this? Okay. And then I want to, let's say I want to extrude this particular rectangle, right? So what I'll do is I'll select this curve and I'll extrude it.
Just one question, Adnan.
Yes.
This thing that you did, even if the base unit of the file is millimeters, if you type this, it will take into feet.
Yes. So again, what happens is the base unit will remain the same. But
Okay.
what it will allow you to do is you can input also 3 feet, right? So let's say I'm making some furniture or something. There are few dimensions that I want to input in millimeters. There are few that I wouldn't.
Yeah, right. Absolutely right.
Yeah. So for example, let's say I want to exclude this rectangle. Right now, I want to exclude this by 18 in mm because
Okay.
that's the usual ply size that we have. So I'll just write 18 and press enter, and it will exclude by 18.
Oh, cool. This is great.
Uh,
Thank you. Thank you.
okay. So then you have I have this base ready with me, right? Now let's see layers. It's all like you don't know how important it is to use layers in Rhino, right? Once you are once you like again, I have never seen anyone using SketchUp with good layers. The reason is because there is no advantage of using layers as such in SketchUp, right? Except that it allows you to hide and all of those things. But there is a great advantage of using layers in Rhino, right? So you would always want to use layers wherever possible. Right. So let's say I have this rectangle with me. What I will do over here is I'll create a new layer over here and I'll name it as ply. Right? Okay. And then what I can do over here is if you see an option over here, this square black color, this is known as layer color. Right? Layer color is very different from material. Right? Object material and layer color are two different things. We'll see how you can give material and all of those things later on, but for now what I will do is because it's ply, I would want to keep it as brown color, so I'll keep it as brown color. Everyone's good with this much? Now this right now, if you go to properties panel over here, this is the properties panel, right? So it will give you all the properties related to this geometry that you have selected. Seems good? So right now if you see, it's in layer default, it's in default layer. Right. What I can do is I can select this drop down menu over here and I can move it to ply. And as soon as I move it to ply layer, it has changed its color. Everyone's good with this much? You can also change layers from here at the bottom. Right? Everyone is good with this much? Yes or no? Perfect. Okay. So now this is in ply layer. Now I'll create another layer on top of it, which is known as glass. Right. Now, if you see there is a check mark over here, that means that this layer is on, right? And whatever you draw will be automatically be inputted in this layer. Now I know that I'm going to draw, I'm going to make glass. So what I'll do is I'll just double click on this particular layer and it will turn on this layer. So now whatever I draw will go in glass layer. Make sense? Okay. I'll keep my glass layer as let's say blue color, right? I'll use cyan. So now what I will do is I have this curve with me. I haven't still deleted that curve. So what I'll do is I'll move that curve on top, right? From bottom to top. Everyone's good with this? Yes or no? Yes? Okay. Now what I will do is I want to offset this curve. So I'll select this curve and then you have an option over here which is known as offset. Right? If I type in my command line as offset, it's asking me how much do I offset, how much do I want to offset it with, right? So let's say I want to offset it by 5 millimeters. So I'll just write 5 and press enter. And then you can select the direction. You can select direction, whether you want to extrude in inward direction or outward direction. So I'll select the outward side and I'll just click over here and it has extruded in the outward direction. Everyone's good with this? Right? And then I will extrude this, right? So what I'll do is I'll just type extrude curve and then I would want to extrude this with, let's say I want to use 6 millimeter glass, right? 6 millimeter thick glass. I'll just press 6. And again, I can extrude it in downward direction. I can extrude it in the upward direction. So I'll just extrude it in the upward direction and then click OK. Right? So I have 6 millimeter glass on top, like this. Everyone's good with this much? Perfectly fine. Okay. Now what I will do over here is I'll set my C plane over here. So I'll go to my C plane over here and I'll set my C plane like this. See, I have oriented my C plane over here like this. Everyone's good with this much? what will I do is I'll create an arc. So in order to create an arc, you use this option over here, right? And there is a drop down over here, and I'll select this one, right? Start, end, and direction. So what I'll do is I'll create an arc like this. Is this good with everyone? Yes or no?
Yes, yes.
If I try to exclude this curve, you see it is creating a hollow object for me. I don't want it hollow. So what I'll have to do over here is I'll have to create a line segment over here, so that I have this line segment and this line segment over here like this, right? Two things. And then I need to join them. So there are two options to join them. Either you can type in your command line as join, or you can press Ctrl J. This will create a uniform curve, one single entity. And then if I extrude it, you see I have a solid thing like this. All of you are having solid.
One question out here, Adnan. Now, is this solid, or if we cut a cross section, it will be hollow inside?
So again, there is nothing like truly solid in Rhino.
Okay,
Right?
oh,
Right.
Uh-huh.
So from inside it will be hollow. But again, when you want to create two-dimensional drawings for this, you
Yeah.
don't want it to be seen. You don't want it to be seen like a hollow thing, right? So again, once our 3D is ready, we'll see how we can create plans and sections from the same thing, right? And at that time, we'll see how we can represent something like this.
No, I just want to clarify, one thing clarified. You are saying that there is nothing like 2D or
There is
3D,
nothing
some
like
solid
3D.
or something in Rhino. You don't have anything of that concept, you mean to say? That is
Yeah,
what you're saying?
yes, it's the same thing, right? So what solid means is basically it has surface from all the sides.
No, solid means it. I mean, if I cut this thing, what you have done, this molding that you have created, if I take a section along the y-axis, then solid means like a wood piece, it will be a sort of a solid mass.
Nothing like that. It's like it's made up of sheet metal or something.
Here it will be like it's a sort of a pipe. So how do you address that thing? I mean, when you're saying, I mean, is that thing in Rhino, or it is not? There is nothing of that sort.
So again, see, so give me one example where you will need it to be a solid thing.
Say in this case only, if I need to, after you, I believe you're taking this to be a molding all around the table. So if I want to if I cut a cross section along the table, when I'm doing the working drawings or something, then the entire hatch hatch will be a default of the material, right?
So again, I'm telling you the same thing. So once we are done with this geometry, and we'll see how we can create drawings for this, right? Construction drawings or something like that. And at that time, we'll see how we can apply a hatch to a solid thing or something like that. Okay, there are two areas as far as I know where you would need this to be a solid thing, right? One is when you want to create a construction drawing. Second is when you want to use it for, let's say, 3D printing or something like that.
Right.
Now, once you want to use it for 3D printing or something like that, once you transfer this Rhino geometry into any 3D software, it will automatically know that, okay, it has to be a solid, and then it will treat it like that. So what happens is, if you just click it over here, again, we'll see that this in Grasshopper also, but Rhino knows that this is a solid. It's just not able to represent. It's not able to represent it in terms of solid, the way you imagine it, like a wood. Like that, but it knows that it's a closed solid surface.
Okay, cool. Fine. Thank you.
So again, by default, all of you must not be having this option on over here, right? Where for all of you, this solid over here will be equal to no, right? And that is why I was asking you that question, that is it solid for you or not? By default, this will be an option for you. And once you have this option, see, I can see through and through this, right? Because it has only excluded that particular curve.
Right.
Now there are two ways of closing this surface. What you can do is you can either use a command on top of this, which is known as cap. And what cap will do is it will essentially close all the open surfaces. Or else in the first place itself, what you can do is while extruding, once your extrude command starts, you can click over here and this will turn solid equals yes. Seems good with everyone? Okay. Right, now I have this curve over here with me, right? I'll just change the layer so that we can see. I have this curve with me, right? What I will do is I want to revolve this particular curve on this, right? So what I will do is I'll go to surface, I'll do sweep rail 1, I'll select my lower curve as my rail, I'll select this one as my cross section and I'll press enter. You see it has created this geometry for me, right? The round edges for me. As the next step, what I would want to do is I'll select this outer periphery, the inner surface. Then what I'll do is I'll just do what should I do? I'll do Boolean union, right? So that it creates one singular entity and it takes this as a one object. So I'll just do Boolean union, right? So now this is one thing, right? This is the glass on top
The
of.
sweep rail again. What did you do?
Yeah. So I had Amod, I had this arc with me.
Yeah, yeah.
I had this offsetted curve with me. So what I did was I went to sweep rail 1. I selected my offsetted curve as my rail. I selected this as a cross section and then I press enter twice and then it works.
No, I'm not getting it.
Okay. Do you want to share your screen?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm getting a error saying host disabled participant
Sure.
screen
Okay,
sharing.
give me a second. Can you try again?
Okay. Can you see now?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. So I'm
Okay, so again, let's do it from the start. Select the sweep rail 1. Okay. Select the curve, offset curve. Okay. Press enter. Then select that one. Oh, sorry. Start again the command. Okay.
sweep rail 1,
Select.
select curve.
Okay. Select the cross section curve. So select that one. See, you have not created a joint curve like I did, right? If you see over here, remember. Okay. You need to stop sharing, and I'll share my screen. So if you see over here, what I had done over here is, you see, I had created a closed curve.
Oh, okay, I see.
Yeah. So that you have not done.
You mean to say that if it's not closed, you cannot sweep it?
So again, see, the thing that will happen is, see, it should still work. So let's say if I explode this,
Yeah.
and then if I use sweep rail 1, it should it
Yeah,
will.
conceptually, yeah, yeah.
But the thing that is happening in his case is, I think this point is a little far.
Ah,
It's getting, the software is getting confused. Amod, so what I would want Amod you to do is just check if your C plane and everything is properly aligned, right? If there is a little error here and there, like it's not well aligned to the C plane and all of that, it might be creating that error.
Okay, let me try it again.
Yep. Else, just let me know, and after the session, we'll do it for you. Right? The reason why I like to join it and then create a solid thing is that because once I do a Boolean union with this, it will give me a solid one entity, right? And that's the only reason I'm creating solid over here. This is the curve, this is it. Okay, and then again I will do Boolean union. Shall we proceed? Right? Okay. Now what I will do over here is I want to create a leg for this table. Right? So what I will do over here is I'll go to my front view, and over here, first I'll select the midpoint over here. So I'll select, let's say I'll select this midpoint over here, and I'll draw a line segment. So first what I'll do is I'll press shift and then I'll press tab so that it's locked in the Z direction, right? And let's say I want to have my height of my table as 29 inches, right? So I'll just press 29 and double apostrophe and then press enter, right? So this is the line that I have. Now there is the reason why I have drawn this line is because I want to use it as a reference, right? There is no other motive behind it. And then I'll just create a rectangle like this, so that I know that my leg should be somewhere over here. So I'm going to use this rectangle as a reference, and there is no other reason why I'm using this. Is everyone good with this much? Yep, okay. I'll go to my front view again. And then what I will do over here is I'll move this rectangle outside. Everyone's good with this much? Yep. Can I proceed? Yes or no?
Please go ahead.
Okay, great. So now what I'll do is from my line segment over here, I'll go to polyline. I'll create a polyline. So now I'll start from here. I'll create a point over here. I'll create a point over here. Let's say I want to create something different. So let's say I'll select a point over here. Give me a second. I need to create a good. And this yellow, this white line that you see, you will get this white line because your smart track is on, right? If your smart track is off, you won't get something like this. But what smart track allows you to do is automatically identifies कि यहाँ पे snap करना चाहिए, right? Hence the name smart track, right? So it will just give you this line. You can just use this line as a reference. I want to use this line as a reference. So Rhino is smart enough to know your references, right? So I'll just use this again as a reference. Then I'll go over here, something like this. Right? Because I was not able to create the full curve in one go, I had created two curves. I have joined both of them. Everyone's good with this much? Yes or no? Okay. Now, what I'll do is I want to extrude this leg, right? So until now, I was working in the glass layer, right? Now, let's say again, I want to use apply layer, right, to work. So what I will do is I'll move my curve into ply, right? Or even if I don't move this curve into ply, I can just simply double click on ply, and this will turn ply layer on. So now whatever I do henceforth will be added to the ply layer. Make sense? Okay. Now I'll extrude this leg by, let's say, 36 millimeters. So I'll just extrude this by 36 millimeters. Seems good with everyone? Yes or no?
Yeah, cool, good.
Okay, great. So again, stop me wherever you don't understand something, right? Now what I do over here is I'll just create a line segment over here like this. I'll just go to default layer so that we can see it in black color. I'll use this layer over here. Right? And then what will I do is I want to move this leg. So right, I'll move this leg, I'll select this midpoint over here and I'll move it to the midpoint over here. Seems good with everyone? Then I want to rotate it. So what I do over here is I'll select rotate command, right? So I'll just type rotate command over here. I'll select this point over here. And you see my rotation is happening in this direction. But I don't want to rotate in this direction. I want to rotate in XY direction. The reason why rotating in this direction is because our plane उस direction में है. So what I'll do is I'll move my plane again in XY direction. And then I can rotate it. So I'll rotate it. I select this point as my center of rotation. Then I can select this point over here like this, and I can align it to this point over here. Make sense, everyone? Everyone was able to do this rotation? Can I proceed? Then as a last step, what I will do is I'll move to my front face again, and then I'll use move command. I'll select this top point over here. I'll press shift so that it moves in Z direction. I can press tab and then I can click over here. Right, so now my leg is perfectly over here. Make sense, everyone? How many of you are done till here? Just give me a thumbs up, raise your hand, something, let me know so that perfect. Ujjwala, are you able to do? Magendra,
Yes, yes.
sir, are you able to do?
No, I am just following it right now
Okay,
because otherwise I'll not be able to keep track of it.
okay,
I'm not
okay.
as fast as you guys.
Sanat, I know you will be able to do, so I didn't ask you. Uh, the first few sessions will be boring for you, but yes. Okay, so once I have this one leg with me, the next thing I want to do is I want to create 4 copies of it, right? So again, what I can do over here is I can use either array, or what I can do over here is I can also rotate, right? So once I do rotation command, I want to rotate it from center, and there is an option over here where it's saying copy is equal to no. So when copy is equal to no, as the thing suggests, it will not make a copy of it. But if you keep it as yes, what it will do is you can create copies of it, right? So what I'll do is I'll select press shift so that it's rotating at 90 degrees only, and then I'll create multiple copies of this leg, right? Okay. I have my legs like these. Everyone's good with this much? Yes or no? Right? And this is how we have created a simple table for ourselves. Is it good? Everyone's good with this much? Okay. Now this is how we have created a geometry, right? Now what I want to do is I want to apply material to this. In order to see material, what you need to do is you need to go to your rendered view. And in rendered view, what I will do is I'll turn off my surface edges, right? Because I don't want to see all of those things. So I'll turn off my surface edges and I'll turn off my curves. As soon as you go in rendered view, by default, Rhino applies default material, which is of white color to everything. Make sense? Right. Hence, when you go to rendered view, everything will appear in white color. Right. Now, there are multiple ways in which you can apply material to something, right? The first thing is, let's say I want to apply a material to this object, right? So I'll select this object over here, right? My bottom ply. And let's say I want to apply material to it. I can go to this properties panel over here. Under properties panel, there is something of an icon which is of a tube, right? If you hold your mouse over here, it's known as material tab, right? So if you click on materials tab, you will have this panel appearing. Now, if you click on drop down menu over here, you can either select a material from whichever you might have created earlier, or what you can do is you can use a new material. You can click on use a new material. As soon as you click on use a new material, there are various ways in which you can create a material, right? For now, what I want to do is I want to use a picture as my material, right? So if you click on picture, yep, it has opened a picture. It allows you to select a JPEG or something, right? Now I already have a material library with me, so I'll select a material from there under wood. But if you don't have a material library, what all of you can do is quickly from Google download an image, right, and use it, right? I'll just select this as my material, dark brown wood. Seems good. If you want to change the material, what you can do is select the object over here. Again, from images, you can change the thing, right? I'll edit it. And then it allows you to also edit the image or something like that, right? But you don't want to edit it. I want to select a new image. Let's say I want to use this as my image. Everyone is good with this much? Can I proceed? Now over here, what you see over here is this image is pixelated, right? The reason is because it applies it applies one image on one surface, right? What you can do over here is there is something over here, and we are not going to go into great details into all of these things because this is not the agenda. Like again, rendering is not something that we want to learn in this workshop, but again, it's good to know, right? There is, if you go over here, texture mapping tab over here, it allows, there is something over here at the bottom which is known as UVW mapping, right? What UVW mapping allows you to do is, see, by default it's 1, 1 and 1, right? So what it means is it's one image is repeating on one surface once. If I change this and if I keep it as, let's say, 5, 5 and 5, now that one image is replicating 5 times on one surface. Make sense, all of you? Right, if I change it to, let's say, 20, 20, 20, the same image is repeating 20 times, right? So you will have even finer patterns. Good? Okay. Now I want to create a glass material for this, right? So I'll select this top layer over here and I'll go to again my material tab over here and new tab over here, and then over here I can simply use glass material. You see it has created a glass material on top, right? And if you want, you can also edit it. So let's say I want to give a little blue tint over here. So right, so I'll just give a little bluish tint. So yes, that is the glass material that you have. Everyone's good with this much? Were you all able to follow? Okay. And then as a last step, what I can do is I can select these 4 legs, and then again I can create a new material. And let's say I want to use again, let's say I want to use a metal, right? Of course, we are not doing this with metal, but for the sake of trying different things, right? I'm using this metal material. And then once I click on color, I have various materials, right, that I can apply. Let's say I want to create my legs with gold. Yes, you have gold material applied over here. Done? Okay. So yes, we'll keep our session for today till here. What, as an assignment, what I want all of you to do is create a furniture of your own in Rhino, right? Again, because this was the first time that a lot of you were using Rhino for the first time, the furniture that I have created is very simple one, right? The same table can be created in SketchUp, right? Don't create a furniture like this, right? If you are using Rhino, at least while you are learning, try to take a full advantage of it, right? Try to use splines, try to use surfaces, loft, various things, right? Create a piece of furniture, right? If you are stuck somewhere, you don't know something, message me, ask me something, right? I'll answer with best of my capabilities. What we'll do tomorrow is we'll see, once we have created a furniture, how we can create working drawings for it, right? Simple working drawings. I don't use AutoCAD, right? Within my practice also, right? So Rhino can create as good working drawings as AutoCAD, right? And much faster, much quicker, in much lighter way possible, right? In AutoCAD, I have seen, like, once you put a lot of hatches, it sticks and all of those, and you'll not face any of those issues over here, right? So we'll see how we can quickly create working drawings. There are a few more tools that I still left to teach. And as a last step, we'll see how we can create renders for this, right? This is right now in Rhino itself, but for the furniture that you are making, we'll see how we can create quick renders for it, right? So those are the things that we need to see. But yes, before we make working drawings for the furniture, you need to have your furniture, right? All of you will be creating working drawings for your furniture, right? On Classroom, I'll create an assignment, right? Where how many of you have not used Google Classroom before? Everyone has used, I'm assuming. So yes, I'll be creating an assignment on Google Classroom by end of today or tomorrow morning, and then you can upload your Rhino files in on Google Classroom before tomorrow's session, right? Okay. We still have around 10-15 minutes. If you have any questions, let me know, and then I'm here. Yep.
Yeah, Adnan,
Yes.
sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
I had that doubt about the edge of the glass. So if
Uh-huh.
you can, and also how you revolve the
Yes. Again,
legs.
can you share your screen? I'll stop now.
Can you see it now?
Yes. Just give me 1 second. Yes, I can see.
So I'll go back to the shaded option,
Mhm.
and then okay. So I'll set my viewpoint,
Mhm.
C plane. So I'll go
So again,
to
see, just 1 second, Amod, before you proceed, the reason why you see once you zoom in, you are zooming in a lot, or you are zooming in a lot, right? Even if you scroll your mouse once, the reason why that's happening is because you have not oriented, or you have not moved your angle, the rotation point. So just select the top surface and then do zoom selected, and things will
right,
be
right.
for you.
I'll select
You can select any curve surface or something, right? And then right zoom and then select.
and select it.
And now now you see it's working well. So yeah, now you can select that. Okay.
Then I go to midpoint,
Uh,
midpoint and endpoint. So that's my thing.
no, I think it's in wrong angle.
Okay, let me
Select the
see.
end point. You don't need to. It's not necessary for you to select the midpoint. Select top point, and then select the last point. Select that end point on that line. No,
So I selected this one. Yeah, I think I got it now.
Can you rotate your perspective view so that I can check? Okay, great. Okay.
Yeah, there. And then now I go to uh, do the arc.
Mhm.
That's it.
Okay.
And then join it. So,
Create a line. Okay. And then press spacebar. Okay. Now select both the curves and join them.
and then select both the curves and join.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Okay.
Select the curve
Then
again. Select that curve again. So again, so if you see on the top, left hand side top, it's saying one closed curve added to selection, right? So I just wanted to ensure that whether the curve was closed or not, right?
yeah.
So works.
And now I go to loft,
No, no, not loft. Sweep rail.
sweep rail. Okay.
Sweep rail one.
I
Select the
select
rail.
the
You select that
curve
curve. Okay.
and then select cross section curves, which is this.
Press enter. Press enter. And then okay.
Oops.
Okay.
Uh,
Just give me 1 second. I've asked for a remote control. Can you give it?
Did you get it?
Uh, yes. Don't. Yes. Now you move your mouse away. You don't touch the mouse.
Yeah.
Modi, it worked for me. I don't know something. Okay.
Something spooky.
No, no. I have just given up remote control. Now you try again. Just delete this and try again.
Okay. And then I go to
Oh, Samod, I got the. You are using sweep one command and not sweep rail one command.
okay. What? So you went where again for sweep rail one?
On the top.
Okay. Select rail. That's curve.
I
And then
think I need to check whether sweep and sweep rail both are same or not.
is the same?
I need to check.
No. Again, I'm not getting it. I don't know why.
So again, select the bottom curve. No, no, wait. Select the rail. Okay.
Okay. Curve.
Go to
And then sweep one rail.
cross section. Press space bar.
Yes.
Press space bar.
Yes.
Press space bar.
Okay.
You are getting it.
Got it. And now the second question is the legs. I got this one in the right place.
Mhm.
Now, if I have to array it like polar array,
Mhm.
how did you manage to do that?
So I did rotation. So type rotate. Okay. You want to see again. Before rotating, you need to set world plane to the XY plane, right? Because right now it's in the other direction, so it will rotate in that direction.
Midpoint here.
Midpoint. Then you can press Shift and then
Yeah.
move out the circle a little out. So press Shift and select.
Yeah.
And you can start from anywhere you want, right? So select that point. That is good. Right now copy is off. So copy is equal to no. Before you start copying, you need to turn it on. So again, press escape. Okay, now you can again press shift and it will snap at 90 degrees, right? So click once.
Okay.
Okay, click now in the other direction. Okay. Okay. Or else and then bus. Or else you can just type it, right? And then like 98 or 180 and all of those in command lines. So yes, you have your table ready.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Well, anyone, anything else? No? Okay. So I'll see you all tomorrow with your furniture, right? Bye.
Thanks, Adnan.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Adnan. Great session. Huh?